Okay, so in the beginning, what are you going to do? So I'm seeing a lot of it out here. I'm in northern Arizona. I'm more towards the New Mexico side. So I'm in what they call high desert, which means we get more. For those of you who are down towards the Phoenix, Tucson, Yuma, Yucca, and all that area, you get the low desert, which means that you get hotter and you don't really get the winter months. You'll get a few frosts, but not much to really talk about. And I know that once you become acclimated, you're going, but the winter gets cold. Not really, not compared to everywhere else. And I get where you're coming from. I spent many days out in those nights and days out in those deserts. So here's the thing: in Arizona, you can actually, if you go around to each county, decide where you want to be. You can actually talk to the county recorder's office and find out what's up for sale. And a lot of times you're looking at anywhere from $400 to $1,000 an acre, depending on where you're looking at. I don't recommend you, if you're going off grid, which is where this is focused, okay? If you're going off grid, I don't recommend the mountain areas. I don't recommend Flagstaff. I don't. There's a lot of rim country going up into Heber, Overgard area. Um, your growing season, if you're planning to live off grid, have a garden, all that stuff, which is kind of where we're at right now, right? You are looking at a very small growing season. You're only going to have a few months to grow anything. Besides that, a lot of that country, when you start digging, it's all rock underneath. It's excruciating to try to dig a well, try to dig a septic. You're going to have to hire companies to do it. And in Arizona, you kind of have some leeway on a lot of your rules, because the property that you're going to get is way remote. It's not going to have access to power, sewage, water, and it's all kind of listed as like recreational residential. So there's a few things you need to know. I had done medieval camping. I had, and we're talking, weeks, months at a time. I thought I was prepared. I thought I had enough of a noggin, enough of understanding that I knew it would be work, but it was. I thought of everything, but I didn't. I happen to pick a property in an area where I know how the ground is. I know how the ground works. I know what it needs to grow something. And that was my primary focus. I wasn't thinking of a lot of other things. We originally moved in an RV. And I will let you know it's just a 10-foot hallway that you sleep in, and you got a little kitchen and a bathroom. But you have to find a way to dump it. Now, our RV is an old RV. So once we parked it, it was kind of done at that point. We had roached all the tires, all that good stuff. So we dug a septic. We went ahead and it's a dump, okay? And we have the sawdust and the buggies in there to, you get a lot of additives, same stuff that you would, besides the sawdust, it's the same additives that you would put in your RV tank, right? And we do dump in there and we watch it and we have it covered and it's our property. We scoped out where we needed to put it so that, because all of that leaches into the ground. So you don't want that anywhere near where you're going to want to put in a well, where, we put it where we will eventually be putting a leach field anyway. So that's important. You got to plan out how you're going to work out that septic area because you have to dump your poop, right? Don't go walking around in the desert and just pooping anywhere. It's rude. And it's rude. And it's not healthy. And it's not good for your environment. You are now a caretaker of the land. And that land will love you back if you treat it right. That's a fact. So when you're looking at your property, you need to figure this all out. When you buy a property, okay, you're going to buy a blank sheet of land. And like I said, a lot of places, I know here you can get it $400 an acre, I think. Now, because because I'm poor, I went to a company called Land Central. And I looked up the area that I wanted in the county that I wanted. And they had my property, and it was $100 a month. And I was able to secure the mineral rights to my property. To me, that was really important. It's blank property that nobody wants. Nobody wants to be here, right? But you never know who's going to strike whatever mineral deposit they think they want, buy up those mineral rights, and say, hey, I'm going to put this well or this scraper or this whatever, and I'm going to take your soil. I'm going to take your property. I'm going to take the oil that's underneath the ground. You know, if you're in another state, you're going to run into the same problems. When you're doing these deeds and you're getting that property, I highly, highly recommend that you get the mineral rights. That way, nobody's going to bother you for any reason. Now, on my little piece of property, our land taxes every year are $30. It's affordable. That's one of the reasons that I got it, is that no matter what happens, I can come up with $30 to pay that land tax, right? It has no water, it has no electricity. So, one of the other things that we had to figure out was the water. How are we going to get in there? What are we going to do? Now, here we can hit, and in most places in Arizona, when it comes to desert country, you can hit water at about 200 feet. That's at $35 a foot, the last I looked. However, that water's going to be brackish. It's just going to be full of minerals. It's going to be salty. It's not drinkable. And it's barely, well, you wash your dishes on it, but it leaves like this kind of a film afterwards. It's just not good water, and you don't want to wash in it because it'll do all sorts of nasty things to your skin. So it's kind of useless, and you can't use it for your garden. It's got so much salt content, it'll kill your garden. Okay? And it's not good for your animals. If you're not going to drink it, don't give it to your animals. I don't care if it is your chickens, just don't do it. So, to get good water, you're going to have to go down 1,000 feet. That's if you want your own well on your own land. That's not hand diggable, baby. You're going to have to hire somebody to do it. So you're going to have to save up. All right? Not a problem. In the meantime, every town has a water station, basically. You go up, you do your however many gallons, and you truck it back home. And I think it's like 5 to 10 cents a gallon. I don't remember what it was. I remember being floored by the price, going, what was I paying for when I was in the city? You know. But while we were in the RV, what we did was we went ahead and we had like 20 single gallon containers. And we would go into town, and we'd fill up all of the containers. Ended up costing like 20 cents. And I did say it's like 5 to 10 cents per, I don't remember. Anyway, I remember like 1,000 gallons only like $3. Ugh. So at any rate, we would drive it home. basically. And I put one in the bathroom. Now, we didn't have the shower set up, of course, so we had to kind of spit shower, and then we go into like a travel plaza or to the church, and we would take a shower once a week, and the rest of the time we used rags in our gallon water. We also did the same thing. I would heat up um, a, a pan of water. I bring it to a boil, and I had a two sink system into my RV. So one side I did hot soapy water. I'd add more water, cool it off, but um, it got the job done. And then one gallon in the other side to rinse it all off. And yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but it was very effective. And of course, we had drinking water from that as well. And we do that probably every 4 or 5 days. Having dogs and chickens and all that, you go through a lot of water. So you need to consider your water source. At some point in time, if you're going to truck water, you're going to want a large, 1,000 gallon higher water tank that you have on a trailer. So you hook it up, you go into town, you fill that whole thing up, and you bring it back. And then there are all sorts of ways, which Kevin's going to go into on his video, of getting that water out for what you want to use. We have two, okay? There's one for the water that we're using for ourselves. That would be our dishwater, our drinking water, our animal water, our wash water, that kind of thing. The other one is strictly, now this is an old tank that we picked up that Kevin like traded a little bit of work for. Um, but it was on a trailer. It's a big metal tank that somebody for some reason had cut an opening into it. It's old, it dried out, there's a little bit of rust in the inside. I mean, it's just kind of not something that we're going to use for personal water. However, that tank, Kevin's going to patch it, and we're going to use that tank solely for the garden. So I can park it at the garden and basically release a hose, release the valve, and let it flow out into the garden, going into the rows as an irrigation. And then we take it in once a week and refill it, and that's how that'll get done. Where there's a will, there's a way. You just have to kind of think outside the box and figure out how's this going to work. All right. So you got your property, you got your water. Hopefully you have something to live in. But if you don't, here's the deal. And I recommended this to several people, and they have done it, and they're just elated and happy with it. So, I recommended the water. I recommended this is what you got to do. They have, and there's a lot of companies. The only one that's coming to my mind is Weather King, because we have one right outside of town. And I don't know the brand of mine. It's not Weather King, because I bought one of these, but I have a storage that looks like a barn. And we are paying $300 a month for it until it's paid off. And God, I wish I could tell you how much it was in the first place. And oddly enough, Kevin doesn't either. We just went, we can afford the $300 a month. That's what we're going to go with, and this is what we need. Kevin, because he does handyman work, he works on semis, he works on vehicles, he works on houses, doing everything from head to toe and everything inside. So he has a lot of tools that he has to store and keep out of the weather. He doesn't use all of them. You don't need a skill saw or you don't need housing tools when you're working on a semi or on somebody's car. So he needed a place that was secure that he could put his stuff in. So they also, besides those barns and besides sheds, your regular, what we are accustomed to as a shed, they also have sheds that look like little tiny houses. Of course, they don't have any electric hookup or any type of bathroom, or it's a shed, but it looks like a house. Sometimes they have little decks on them. I mean, Kevin's kind of that person that he's not going to buy anything that has a deck because he can build a deck on. But $300 a month is affordable. You can do this. You can make it somehow. So you go ahead and get that, and I believe the down payment was the first month's rent. They deliver it to your property. They make sure that it's level. Now you do want to go in, and even if you have to hand rake it, which is what we had to do, try to get it as level visually as you can. Get out there with a hoe and rake, and it works. Nothing that you're going to do off grid is going to be easy. So if you are planning just to go somewhere, sit down, and not do any work, off grid living is not going to work for you at all. Nobody's going to come pick up your trash. Nobody's going to deliver you water. Nobody's going to do everything for you. You have to get off your ass and do it. All right, so you level that out. Get it just good enough, because when they come in, they put boards and platforms under there to get it to sit nice and level. But you want to give them a head start, okay? Once you have that little tiny house, this is what I recommend to do. If you can't pay for it outright, you aren't a builder who's got all the materials and all of that good stuff, you go ahead and get one of these. $300 a month. Now, from there you go over to Harbor Freight, and this is something we did for the RV because we didn't. Gas is expensive. Gas comes and it goes, and it's high, and we can use it really quick. We do have a generator on the RV, of course, everybody does, and we do have a propane tank on the RV. However, there's that gas consumption and all of that good stuff, and you want to keep your battery bank filled up. So what you do with this house, this tiny house that you now have, is you get 4 batteries. That's going to be the most of the money, and you're going to pay at least $150 each on the batteries, okay, depending on how good of a quality you buy. Go to Harbor Freight, look at the ads. A lot of times they have solar panels as a pack of 4 with all the stuff, between $150 and $200. That's what's going to charge your battery bank. From that battery bank, now you got to get a little crafty, or you got to find somebody who knows what they're doing if you don't know how to, or do a lot of YouTube lookup, or shoot Kevin a message. Shoot me one. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Get a hold of me. So you're going to want to put in your electricity. Now, it's not going to be off of these little, I'm telling you how to do it cheap. And then you work up from there. All right? Because you can get a lot better solar panels. This is just the beginning. All right? You're going to want to hook that. You're going to want to put in some electrical so that you can charge your phones. So that you can, it's not going to power a lot, but it'll power a light. It'll power your cell phone so that you can keep up. It'll power a tablet so you can watch TV. It will do those types of things. And that's really all you're going to get out of it. But it does give you a sense of home. The next thing you need is an outdoor campsite. Outdoor cooking. Because you're not... We'll get into it later as we get into it. To show you how to install kind of your kitchen area, but that's a lot of work. We're trying to get you your basic up and running. You're going to want an outdoor kitchen, whether that's a camp stove or if you have a stove. Look on Craigslist. Look at, I call it free day. You drive around and you see what people are throwing away that can be fixed. You need your propane tank to hook up to your kitchen stove, to this camp stove. If you have an RV, you're already set. All right, and you use that as your primary cooking stove. I will show you, it'll be later on this summer, how to make a mud oven. I love my outdoor mud oven. It's made out of brick, concrete board. Um, and then I put a metal grill in it and mud. And I have one out at the property right now that I have had out there for 3 years. It's starting to show a little bit of wear and tear from the rain. Some of the mud's kind of trying to click off. So I'll be repairing that. But I want to make one that's taller. I made mine originally really short, so I have to be on my hands and knees. It was my first one. I was practicing. I was like, ooh. So I have to be on my hands and knees to use the current one. I'm going to be making one a lot taller so that I'm of equal length. I'm 52 years old. I don't need to be up on my knees anymore. I feel my aches and pains and arthritis and everything else. Plus, I'm a fat chick. So, yeah, I'm going to make life easier for me. Love the oven. Love the mud oven. That's a wood-fired oven. It cooks real nice. Plus, it gets that nice woodsy taste to everything. Pizzas are glorious out of this thing. So we will be going through that later. But for right now, you're going to need a grill out there. You're going to need some kind of cooking vessel and propane. And that propane also becomes a godsend. We, during the winter months in an RV, and yeah, we're not safe, maybe, I don't know. If you can use it in a tent, you can use it in your RV. It's how I figured. So we used one of those Mr. Buddy camp heaters, right? And it was perfect in the RV. Perfect. And you're going to want one no matter what you're in. It'll be perfect for these little tiny homes, okay? So, but they come with, it has the little bottle thing. Those things can get really expensive when you're using them every day in the winter, right? There is an attachment. There is a adapter that you could take your big propane tank and you put this adapter on, and you can take those little tanks and you screw it in there and it'll turn it on and it'll fill up those little containers. So we initially bought like 10 of the little containers, and we would go through one a night, I think, in the coldest months. And we would put we would refill off of the big tank. Going into, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and all of the properties you're kind of going to find to live off grid are going to be in the middle of nowhere. So you've got the gas to go in town. You've got to go to a town that has a Walmart, Home Depot, some kind of camping supply store or something to buy those containers, right? And they're expensive when you're having to use one every day. So it made more sense to get this adapter, fill up the ones that we have. We have 10. We've got them set. We don't have to do them every single day. If you have to start out with just a couple, start out with just a couple. Do what you can afford. That's going to be it for today. Those are the basics, okay? You got to have some shelter. You need to have, land, shelter, water, and a way to cook. We'll get to the rest later. That's what you're focusing on. Good luck. Go shop around when it comes to those little houses. Every single different one that they have, different company. Graceland is the other one, I think. Every different company has a different style, has different grades. Kevin's big thing with our barn was that it has kind of an attic area. It's got, boarding where he can put another board on top of that, and he's got a whole attic space. And that is why we got the barn that we did. Love our barn, by the way. And they're well made. So you'll love it. Let's get you secure. Let's help you out. If you have any questions, by the way, when you go looking at those, make sure that you are looking at them in the general area that you're going to live, where your property is. And when you're buying property, say you do go to Land Central, you find a property, that's the one you want. You start, the minute that you start that contract with them, the minute that you make that first payment, you have access to that property. So you don't have to wait till it's paid off. You do have to keep paying it off or you're going to lose it. But you can start from that moment utilizing that property. So keep those things in mind. I love you. If you have questions, ask. And good luck to you. Look for your little tiny home. If you're going to get that kind of thing, look for it in the area because you want to get that free delivery. And also, look at the ones that are repoed. You're going to get them cheaper. You can still finance them. And a lot of times they already have some work done to them. And that's always a bonus, right? Anything that you don't have to do. Next time I talk to you, we'll probably talk a little bit about chickens and storage. So, I love you. Take care of yourself. Mwah! We'll see you soon.